there's always been that tradition in this path of radical love, what the Sufis would call mazhab-e-ishq, the path of supreme love, overflowing love, radical love, which is not in it for salvation. You're not in it for heaven and hell. It is really to seek the beloved for the sake of the beloved. And what is extraordinary about this love is that it categorically refuses earlier distinctions. The earlier mystics always made a distinction between human love and divine love. Human love and divine love. And around the year 1000, some of the mystics who are in here begin writing books on love in which they say, I'll write you a book on love on one condition, that you do not ask me to bifurcate the love of God from the love of humanity, for love is one. So Attar begins his story with the story of an Egyptian mystic, Dhul-Nun al-Misri, or as he's called in Persian, Zul-Nun al-Misri, who has a dream of the Day of Judgment. And in this day, God collects all the souls who've ever been created. And the voice of God comes to all of humanity, saying, who here wishes to attain to the sum total of all the worldly desires? Every pleasure that I've ever created. The people sort of look at themselves, and 9 out of 10 put up their hands. We sure would. And the voice of God comes to them saying, it is granted unto you. And they leave. The voice of God comes to them a second time. Who here wishes to be spared every torment, every suffering, every pain, and hellfire? Those who are left look around. That sounds pretty good. To be spared all suffering, right? 9 out of 10 put up their hands. A second time the voice of God comes. It is granted unto you. And they leave. So now we got a pretty small crowd. A third time the voice of God comes. Who here wishes to see my loftiest paradise? A garden that no eye has ever seen and no word has ever described. Loftiest paradise? No eye has ever. 9 out of 10 of those who are left raise their hand. That sounds pretty lovely. Third time, it is granted unto you, and they leave. And then you just got a couple of people left. And Attar says, this time the voice of God comes thundering at them. I gave you every pleasure. I offered you redemption from suffering. You chose it not. I even gave you my loftiest garden. You chose it not. What are you, handful, here for? And Attar says that the couple of people who are left lower their head in humility, and they said, we did not come for pleasure. We did not come to be spared hellfire, and we didn't come for the garden. We came for you. And at long last, they hear the voice of God, not the majestic thundering voice, but the gentle whisper, saying, in that case, I am yours. I am yours. I am like that child swirling around in water, anxious. I flail my arms around. Be generous right now. Cast a loving glance to us, children of the path, who are drowning. Have mercy on our anxious hearts. Save us from this water through your kindness and grace. Shir deh ma ra ze pestan karam. Suckle us, O Muhammad. Nurse me, O Muhammad, from your breast of generosity. So he takes this deliberately male prophet and he talks about him in the most maternal sense of wanting to be suckled at Muhammad's breast. The relationship is not, as I've sometimes called it in the past, Muhammad the UPS delivery man. right? Here you go, here's the Quran. Please sign for the Quran to testify that you have received the Quran. Nothing has been added to the Quran, nothing has been subtracted to the Quran. Thank you, bye-bye, and good luck. Right? Nor is it even the one who embodies the Quran, the one whose very breath becomes a revelation. Muhammad is the maternal prophet, which is how both Rumi and Attar interpret this word, an-Nabiy al-Ummi, the word that usually gets translated as the unlettered prophet, the prophet who is unlearned in human knowledge. But these mystics who get to their mysticism by taking things literally, they say, Nabiy al-Ummi, who is the It's the mother. So Muhammad is actually the maternal prophet. This one is from Rumi. Paradise will be exalted, they say. They. Paradise will be exalted, they say. Fine wine, a beautiful beloved, they say. Here and now we are intoxicated, cuddling with my beloved. So it is now as it shall be then. Mind you, even according to the most literal reading of the Quran, there's no problem with wine. There's a river of wine, of pure wine in paradise. What they say is, why settle for the intoxication of grape? That one just causes you a headache if you have too much. Whereas my daughter, who's in her 3rd week of Duke, says, they just puke in the back of your car. Why not go for the kind of intoxication that doesn't have a hangover, that doesn't have an end? And that's the intoxication of love. So they love to use the metaphor of wine intoxication and everything that goes around with it to talk about this experience, and one that changes and alters the way that you experience God and your own body and humanity. This one is called mingling. Mingling. It says, look, love mingles with lovers. See, spirit mingling with body. How long will you see life as this and that, good and bad? Look at how this and that are mingled. How long will you speak of this world and that world? See this world and that world mingling. And this notion of a reality in which the boundaries and the borders between this world and the other about it. So Kharaqani has a dream in which he hears the voice of God, calls him Bul Hasana, Hassan's daddy. Hassan's daddy, do you want me to tell people everything I know about you so that they stone you? Do you want me to tell people about every hypocrisy that I see in you? You say one thing, but you do another? This is the voice of God. It's one thing to speak truth to power. It's another thing to speak to God. Kharaqani talks back to God. And he says, Bar Ilaha, oh my Lord, my God, do you want me to tell people everything I know about you? Do you want me to tell them about your mercy, your forgiveness, everything I've seen from your generosity? And if I do, no one would ever bother with acts of worship. No one would ever bow down in prayer. Because they know you created us, you love us, you will not punish us. Attar says, there was a long pause, and the voice of God came back and said, you say nothing, I say nothing. Right? Now, One would be excused if you thought this was some kind of a hippie, New Ager kind of soft and woolly Islam to make God the tyrant into a cuddly beloved, except that this story is 900 years old, being told about a mystic from 1,000 years ago. One of the points that I would make, and I've tried to make in here, is that this is tradition. This is actually what the stuff of the tradition has been. And if it looks strange to us, perhaps that says something about us, much more so than it says about who and what this tradition has been for so long.